My name is Cameron Reed, and for 3 years, I gave everything to Datacore Solutions in Seattle. I worked weekends while my friends went hiking in the Cascades. I missed my sister's wedding in Portland to finish a proposal that landed us 6 new. I skipped gym sessions and gained 15 pounds sitting in that gray cubicle, perfecting presentations that brought in over $8 million in new business. My team knew I was reliable, sharp, always one step ahead. Then came the Philadelphia contract, the biggest opportunity in company history. $14 million over 3 years with Eastern Finance Group. I had built the entire proposal from scratch, spent 4 months researching their needs, flew to Pennsylvania twice on my own dime to meet their team. The morning of the final presentation, my boss Todd made a joke in front of everyone. 7 words that changed everything. He said I was too soft to close the deal. The room went silent. 20 people stared at their shoes. Nobody defended me. How do you recover when your own leader destroys you in public? I thought landing the Philadelphia contract would finally prove my worth at Datacore. Instead, Todd made a joke about me being too feminine to represent the company in front of executives. He suggested sending Marcus instead, someone who looked more professional. The room froze. Nobody said a word. That morning, I learned that 3 years of excellence meant nothing compared to 7 words of prejudice. One detail. If you've ever felt judged just for being who you are, or know someone who has gone through that, the story will touch you and you'll want to follow it to the end. Subscribe and help give voice to stories that should no longer remain silent. I grew up in Sacramento, California, in a family that believed hard work solved everything. My father was a mechanic. My mother taught elementary school. They raised me to be polite, dedicated, never complain. I studied business administration at University of Washington, graduated with honors, and landed at Datacore Solutions right after college. The company handled data management for mid-sized corporations across the West Coast. We had about 200 employees spread between Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco. I started as a junior analyst, processing reports and building spreadsheets. Within 6 months, I was leading client presentations. My manager back then, Patricia, saw something in me. She promoted me to account executive before my first year ended. Patricia retired 2 years ago, and Todd took over. Todd came from a sales background in Texas, always talking about golf games and football. He brought his own culture to the team, loud and aggressive. The office changed. Meetings became competitions. Colleagues started undermining each other to look good. I kept my head down and focused on results. But I noticed things. Small comments about my voice being too high during calls. Jokes about my carefully organized desk being too neat, too feminine. When I wore a lavender shirt to a meeting, Marcus laughed and asked if I raided my girlfriend's closet. I did not have a girlfriend. I had never mentioned dating anyone. I kept my personal life completely separate from work. Every morning, I arrived at 7:30 before most people. I reviewed accounts, prepared reports, responded to emails. I stayed until 6 or 7 most evenings, long after Todd left for his gym. I volunteered for difficult clients nobody else wanted. I learned their industries inside out, studied their pain points, created custom solutions. My conversion rate was the highest on the team. 40% of my proposals turned into signed contracts. The company average was 22%. But recognition never came. Todd praised Marcus for landing a $300,000 account. He took Marcus to expensive dinners, invited him to weekend golf trips. When I closed a $1.2 million deal with a healthcare company in Portland, Todd sent a brief email congratulating the team. Not me specifically, the team. I started noticing a pattern. During client meetings, Todd introduced Marcus as our top performer, even though my numbers were better. He assigned Marcus to high-visibility projects. He invited Marcus into strategy sessions I was excluded from. When I asked about attending, Todd said I was needed on operational tasks. Translation, paperwork while Marcus got FaceTime with executives. I tried changing my approach. I spoke louder in meetings, used more aggressive language, wore darker suits. Nothing changed. The message was clear. I did not fit their image of a successful executive. Too polite, too detail-oriented, too soft. Those were words I heard in whispered conversations I was not supposed to overhear. The breaking point started 6 months ago. I was working late on a Friday, finishing a proposal for a logistics company in Denver. Everyone had left except me and Janet from accounting. I heard her on the phone in the break room, talking to someone. She mentioned my name. She said Todd was worried about putting me in front of certain clients because I might make them uncomfortable. Her exact words were that some clients prefer working with normal guys. I sat frozen at my desk. Normal guys. As if I was abnormal. As if 3 years of results meant nothing because I did not match some outdated image of masculinity. I went home that night and did not sleep. I stared at my ceiling in my small apartment in Capitol Hill, questioning everything. Should I quit? Should I confront Todd? Should I just accept this is how the world works? Then I met Ryan. He worked at a coffee shop near my office, the place I stopped every morning for espresso. We started talking one day when the machine broke down, and he had to remake my order 3 times. He apologized profusely. I laughed and said it was fine. He had an easy smile, dark hair, kind eyes. We started chatting every morning. Small talk about weather, traffic, weekend plans. One Saturday, I ran into him at a bookstore in Fremont. We grabbed lunch, then dinner the following week. Ryan was studying architecture at night school while working at the coffee shop during the day. He had dreams of designing sustainable buildings, creating spaces that felt welcoming and human. He talked about his projects with passion I had not seen in anyone at Datacore. We started spending more time together. Movies, walks around Green Lake, dinners at small restaurants in Ballard. For the first time in years, I felt like myself. Not the polished, careful version I performed at work. Just Cameron. The real me. Ryan knew I worked in tech, but I did not share details about the toxicity at Datacore. I did not mention the comments, the exclusions, the constant feeling of being judged. I wanted to keep that part of my life separate. But Ryan was perceptive. One evening, after I canceled plans because Todd assigned me an urgent weekend project, Ryan asked if everything was okay. I broke down. I told him everything. The jokes, the marginalization, the feeling of being invisible despite my results. Ryan listened without interrupting. When I finished, he held my hand and said something I will never forget. He said my value was not determined by people who were too blind to see it. He said I was brilliant, capable, and deserving of respect. He said I should never shrink myself to fit into someone else's narrow definition of professionalism. That conversation changed something in me. I decided to stop hiding, stop trying to become someone I was not. I would do my job exceptionally well and let the results speak. If Datacore could not appreciate that, I would find somewhere that could. But fate had different plans. The Philadelphia opportunity came in March. Eastern Finance Group was a major investment firm looking to overhaul their entire data infrastructure. They wanted a partner who could migrate 15 years of legacy systems to cloud platforms, implement real-time analytics, and train their staff across 12 offices nationwide. The contract was worth $14 million over 3 years. It would be Datacore's biggest account ever, doubling our annual revenue. Todd called an all-hands meeting to announce the opportunity. He said Eastern Finance specifically requested proposals from firms with proven expertise in financial services. We had exactly 2 months to prepare. He looked around the room and assigned me to lead the proposal team. I was shocked. This was the first time Todd gave me a high-profile project. I did not question it. I assembled a team of analysts and dove into research. We worked 12-hour days studying Eastern Finance's current systems, identifying pain points, designing solutions. I flew to Philadelphia twice on red-eye flights, meeting with their CTO and operations director. I learned their company culture, their risk tolerance, their long-term vision. Their CTO, David Chen, was impressed with my preparation. He said most vendors showed up with generic pitches. I showed up with a customized roadmap that addressed their specific challenges. I could tell we were building trust. Back in Seattle, My team worked weekends perfecting the proposal. Ryan understood and supported me, even though it meant canceling plans. He brought me dinner at the office, made sure I was eating and sleeping. He became my anchor during the chaos. But I started noticing strange things. Marcus suddenly showed interest in the Philadelphia project. He attended meetings he was not invited to, asked questions about details I had not shared. During a strategy session, he suggested changes to my approach that would have undermined our entire pitch. When I pushed back, he shrugged and said he was just trying to help. Todd seemed different too. He praised my work in front of the team, but his tone felt forced. He started asking detailed questions about my relationship with David Chen, how often we talked, what we discussed. It felt intrusive, but I answered honestly. We had built a professional friendship. David trusted my judgment. Then came the whispers. Janet from accounting mentioned to someone in the break room that Todd was concerned about my ability to handle high-pressure negotiations. Marcus told another colleague that Eastern Finance might prefer working with someone more assertive. I heard through the grapevine that Todd was considering replacing me as lead once we got to final negotiations. I confronted Todd directly. I walked into his office and asked if there was a problem with my work. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and said everything was fine. He said I was doing great work. But his eyes said something different. The proposal de-delineated. We submitted a comprehensive package, 400 pages of analysis, solutions, pricing, implementation timelines. David Chen called me personally to say it was the most thorough proposal they received. We were shortlisted as one of 3 finalists. The final presentation was scheduled for early May in Philadelphia. Eastern Finance would fly their entire executive team in. We would have 2 hours to present, followed by Q&A. This was it. The moment that would define Datacorp's future. Todd called me into his office 2 weeks before the presentation. He closed the door, which he never did. He said he had been thinking about the presentation team. He wanted to include Marcus as co-lead. I asked why. Marcus had not been involved in building the proposal. Todd said Eastern Finance executives would respond better to a diverse presentation style. He said Marcus brought energy and confidence that would complement my detail-oriented approach. I knew what he really meant. He meant Marcus looked the part. Marcus was tall, played college football, had a deep voice, and firm handshake. Marcus fit the traditional image of a powerful executive. I did not argue. I said fine, Marcus could join. But I would still lead since I had built all the relationship. Todd agreed, but something in his expression made me uneasy. The final blow came 3 days before we were supposed to fly to Philadelphia. Todd called an emergency meeting with me, Marcus, and 2 senior partners. He said he had been receiving feedback from Eastern Finance. They were concerned about our presentation team. They wanted reassurance that Datacorp had the right people to manage a $14 million relationship. Then Todd looked at me and said the words that destroyed everything. He said David Chen had expressed concerns about my ability to handle executive negotiations. He said Eastern Finance wanted someone with more gravitas, someone who could command respect in boardrooms. He said they specifically asked if Marcus could lead the presentation instead. I asked to see. Todd said it was a phone conversation. I asked to call David and confirm. Todd said that would be inappropriate and make us look unprofessional. Then Marcus spoke up. He said he understood this was difficult for me, but the client's comfort had to come first. He said he would make sure to credit my work during the presentation. The 2 senior partners nodded. They said this was a business decision, nothing personal. I sat there in silence, processing the betrayal. 3 months of my life. 2 trips to Philadelphia on my own money. Relationships I had built from scratch. All being handed to Marcus because Todd decided I was not masculine enough to represent the company. I stood up and walked out. I did not yell. I did not cry. I just left. I spent the next 48 hours in my apartment, staring at walls. Ryan came over and found me on the couch, still in the same clothes from the meeting. He made me eat, made me shower, made me talk. I told him everything. The betrayal, the lies, the casual cruelty of being erased from my own project. Ryan asked if I had documentation. Emails, contracts, proof that I built the proposal. I did. Everything was in my personal backup drive. I had learned years ago to save copies of important work, just in case. Ryan suggested I contact David Chen directly. Tell him the truth. Ask him if he really requested the change. I was scared. If David confirmed Todd's story, I would look desperate and foolish. But if Todd was lying, I deserved to know. I sent David an email. I kept it professional. I said I wanted to confirm details about the final presentation since there had been some internal discussions about the team structure. I asked if he had any specific preferences or concerns. David responded within 2 hours. He said he had no idea what I was talking about. He said he never expressed concerns about me. In fact, he specifically told Todd that I was the main reason Eastern Finance was considering DataCore. He said he assumed I would be leading the presentation and looked forward to working with me. I forwarded the email to Todd without comment. 20 minutes later, Todd called me. He said there had been a misunderstanding. He said he must have misinterpreted David's comments. He said, of course, I would lead the presentation. That was always the plan. He said Marcus would just be there for support. I did not believe him. The presentation was in 2 days. I told Todd I needed to think about it. I hung up and called Ryan. He said I should go to Philadelphia and do the presentation. Prove them all wrong. Show Eastern Finance why they chose me. But I had a different idea. I called David Chen directly. I apologized for the confusion and explained that there had been internal politics at DataCore. I said I did not want to put Eastern Finance in an awkward position. David was quiet for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. He said Eastern Finance valued integrity and transparency. He said the way DataCore was handling this situation was concerning. He asked if I would be interested in discussing the project independently, outside of DataCore. I asked what he meant. David explained that Eastern Finance could structure the contract differently. Instead of hiring DataCore as the vendor, they could hire me as an independent consultant and I could subcontract whatever resources I needed. The total value would remain the same, $14 million over 3 years, but I would control the relationship. I could barely breathe. I asked if he was serious. David said completely serious. He said I had proven my expertise and he trusted me to deliver. He said he would send a draft agreement within 24 hours. I sat in my apartment processing what just happened. DataCore was about to lose the biggest contract in company history. Because Todd's prejudice made him lie to a client. Because Marcus's ego made him complicit in stealing my work. Because a system that rewards appearance over ability was about to get exactly what it deserved. I called Todd the next morning. I told him I was resigning effective immediately. He laughed. He said I was being emotional and dramatic. He said I should take the weekend to cool off and come back Monday ready to do the presentation. I told him there would be no presentation. I told him David Chen never requested a change in leadership. I told him I forwarded David's email confirming that. Todd went silent. Then he started yelling. He said I was sabotaging the company. He said I had signed non-compete agreement. He said he would sue me if I tried to work with Eastern Finance independently. I told him to do whatever he needed to do. Then I hung up. Ryan held me while I cried. Not from sadness, from relief. From rage. From 3 years of swallowed, dignitifully breaking free. That weekend, David sent the contract. I reviewed it with a lawyer Ryan connected me with. Everything was legitimate. I would be the primary consultant. I could hire whatever team I needed. Eastern Finance would pay me directly. I signed it Sunday night. Monday morning, Todd called an emergency, all-staff meeting. He announced that Cameron Reed had resigned and that DataCore would continue pursuing the Philadelphia contract with Marcus as lead. He said my departure was unfortunate, but the company would move forward. What Todd did not know was that David Chen had already sent Eastern Finance's legal team a notice withdrawing from contract discussions with DataCore. The official reason was concerns about internal stability and leadership integrity. 20 employees lost their jobs that month when the contract fell through. Datacor's stock price dropped. Todd was demoted. Marcus was let go. The two senior partners who nodded along during that meeting both resigned under pressure. I felt no joy watching it happen, just a quiet sense of justice. Building my own consulting practice was terrifying. I had never run a business. I had never managed contracts at the scale. But David Chen believed in me, and that belief carried me through the fear. I hired 3 of my former DataCore colleagues who had been part of the proposal team. They jumped at the opportunity to work independently. We rented a small office in South Lake Union, bought used furniture, and got to work. The first phase of the Eastern Finance project launched in July. We migrated their legacy systems over a 6-week period, working 16-hour days to meet deadlines. There were problems, technical issues that required creative solutions, but we handled them. David's team trusted us because we had proven ourselves. By September, we completed Phase 1 under budget and ahead of schedule. David was so impressed he referred us to 2 other financial firms. Word spread. By December, we had 4 active clients and a pipeline worth over $20 million. I hired 8 more people, all talented individuals who had been overlooked at previous companies. Some were women tired of tech bro culture. Some were people of color passed over for promotions. One was a brilliant analyst who used a wheelchair and struggled to find employers willing to accommodate her needs. We built a company based on merit and respect, where your identity did not determine your opportunities, where results mattered more than fitting some outdated image of professionalism. Meanwhile, DataCore continued falling apart. Todd tried launching a lawsuit claiming I violated non-compete agreements. His lawyers dropped the case after reviewing the facts. I had not stolen clients. Eastern Finance came to me. I had not used proprietary DataCore information. Everything in my proposal was based on publicly available data and my own research. The lawsuit collapsed, but it generated media attention. A tech journalist in Seattle wrote an article about the situation. She interviewed me, David Chen, and several former DataCore employees. The story that emerged was damning. A talented executive pushed out because of prejudice. A company that prioritized appearance over ability. A $14 million contract lost because leadership could not see past their own biases. The article went viral in business circles. DataCore's reputation was destroyed. 3 board members resigned. The company was eventually acquired by a competitor at a fraction of its previous value. Todd left the industry entirely. I heard he moved back to Texas. Marcus tried reaching out to me months later. He sent an email apologizing, saying he was just following orders. I never responded. Some betrayals cannot be fixed with words. Ryan and I moved into a bigger apartment in Queen Anne. We adopted a rescue dog named Bailey. We hosted dinners for my team, building relationships that felt like family. For the first time in my adult life, I was not hiding. I was not performing some version of masculinity to please others. I was just myself, and it was enough. The Eastern Finance contract concluded successfully in year 3. David Chen flew to Seattle for a celebration dinner. He brought his husband, Michael, who worked in hospital administration. The 4 of us spent the evening sharing stories, laughing, talking about future projects. David told me something I will never forget. He said he chose me not despite who I was, but because of it. He said my attention to detail, my empathy, my ability to listen came from the same place as my identity. Being gay taught me to read rooms carefully, to notice what was unsaid, to build trust through genuine connection rather than dominance. Those were the exact skills that made me excellent at my job. My company now employs 23 people and generates $35 million in annual revenue. We work with clients across North America. We have been featured in business publications as a model for inclusive leadership. I speak at conferences about building workplace cultures based on merit and respect. But none of that matters as much as the message I want to share. Your identity is not a weakness. The parts of yourself that make you different are often your great strengths. When people try to diminish you, exclude you, erase you, remember that their prejudice reveals their limitations, not yours. Todd cost Datacorp $14 million because he could not see past his own bias. He destroyed careers, damaged lives, ruined a company, all because he believed 7 words were more important than 3 years of proven results. He was wrong, and the world proved it. I still think about that morning in the conference room, 20 people staring at their shoes while Todd made his joke. The silence that followed. The weight of being reduced to a stereotype in front of colleagues I respected. Some nights I wonder what would have happened if I had stayed quiet, accepted the humiliation, let Marcus take credit for my work. Maybe I would still be at Datacorp, still invisible, still shrinking myself to fit their narrow definition of professional. But I would have lost something more valuable than any contract. My dignity, my sense of self, the knowledge that I deserve respect not because I perform masculinity correctly, but because I do excellent work. The prejudice I faced was not unique. Thousands of people experience it every day in offices across this country. Subtle comments, missed opportunities, being passed over for promotions we earned. The system is designed to reward a specific image of leadership. But systems can be changed. One person at a time, one company at a time, one $14 million contract at a time. I built something better. Not just a successful business, but a place where people can be themselves and do their best work. Where your value is measured by results, not appearance. Where 7 words of prejudice cannot destroy 3 years of excellence. That is my revenge. Not the money, not the media attention, not watching Todd's career collapse. My revenge is proving that authenticity and success are not opposites. They are partners. And when you stop trying to be who others expect and start being who you are, that is when you become unstoppable. If my story inspired you, if you have ever felt diminished or know someone who has, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we share real stories of overcoming and resistance. And if you have your own story of triumph against prejudice, share it in the comments. Your experience can inspire someone going through a similar situation. Remember, your value is not defined by others' prejudice. Your talent is greater than any barrier they try to put in your way. And sometimes the best revenge is simply being who you are, without apologizing. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story, which will be even more impactful.